Hello and welcome to new live. We don't have video today because it's lockdown. I am on leave. I didn't take a bath. I don't look presentable. So that's it. But you all know my face by now, I guess. If you don't know how I look, go to where? Go to twitter.com/Tanay Pratap and see my photo there. This is how I look. So so in today's live, we are going to do. Is my audio clear? Let's check that up. Is audio clear? Can you hear me? Are things working? Participants pop out chat. Let me pop out the chat here so that we. Yes. So cool. So today what we are going to do is we are going to do styled components. And why audio seems a bit robotic? Start. Bit of noise is there, is it? I don't know what. Uh, is the audio clear now? I my voice itself is robotic, right? Because the face is similar to Mr. Robot. I think that's why. So anyway, so without wasting much time, I don't want to waste too much time cracking jokes, but we'll have fun. So the fun will be because I'll tell you why. Because I have not been using bit robotic. I don't know what to do with that bit robotic bit. Let me try this. Let me remove this maybe. Remove. Yes. Is it better now? Is the voice better now? Tell me. So it's better now. Okay, cool. Cool. Way better. Okay. Got it. Something with the OBS. If some common announcements, if you don't know about me, you can go to learncodingfree.org. This is where I teach coding for free. The idea is to teach a lot many people. If you are new to this stream for the first time, you can get started here. You can also get a job from here. This I have to do this every time. Got that out of the way. Okay, so sorry for the burp. Sorry for the burp. Oh my god. Sorry for the burp. This is. Wait, let me close this. Echo. Sorry. Hey Sushil. A lot of people are here. Nice. This was a very unplanned live, so I don't expect a lot many people. You can, if you are viewing it later, it's fine. This is not something which you are going to miss out a lot. Here is what we are going to do today. Let me copy and paste this on the chat so that you have a handy copy of it, and if I forget something, you remind me that Tana, you forgot this from the lesson today. So we'll do like a small session, 30 to 40 minute or maybe an hour session, not more than that. It's 7:05. So we'll talk about what CSS in JS is. We'll talk about different libraries, about frameworks, why I am choosing styled components. Then we'll get started. So the first 10-15 minutes we'll just discover a few things, understand few things. Then we'll code. I'll try to set up this on a code sandbox. I hope it will work. Then we'll go through the documentation, and that's it for today. And we'll do so. If you see today's live stream, it has a number 1. This is because I'm trying to do a session series on style components. So let's start with what CSS in JS is. Let me just open the chat in the side panel so that. So I'm new. Pranav is saying I'm new to React. If you're new to React, I think you need to understand React first, Pranav, before getting into this, because this might not make a lot of sense for you. So let me close this. Again, learn coding free. If you are new Pranav, someone who is new, you can get started from here. Anyway, so so what CSS in JS is? Let's look in the what is CSS in JS. What is CSS in JS, and then I'll explain it to you maybe better. So someone has written that it's a styling technique where JavaScript is used to style components. When this JavaScript is passed, CSS is generated and attached into the DOM to the component level itself, using JavaScript to describe styles in a declarative and maintainable way. Very nice, good definition, whoever has written it. So maybe a lot of it you didn't understand. So let me explain this in clear thing. So there are a lot of CSS preprocessors, right? So you have CSS preprocessor, and SAS is very famous, like less SAS, all of these are preprocessors. So in this case, what you have to do is you have to learn a new language for writing, programmatically writing CSS. So you might have about SAS or less or other things. I have used only SAS. I haven't used. So one thing which I want to make clear is I'm not an expert in CSS. I know enough CSS to get things going. So that's one thing. So instead of learning a new language like less, like SAS, you use JavaScript to style the component. Other thing which happens here is when this JavaScript is parsed, let me zoom in a little bit here. So when this JavaScript is passed, CSS is generated and attached into the DOM. What this means is whatever library you are using, it actually at the end it is outputting CSS, because your DOM can style only when there is a CSS, right? So JavaScript we pass and then attach it to DOM. How do you attach it to DOM? You insert a style tag on top, it attaches itself. So it says it allows you to abstract CSS to the component level itself, which means CSS which is there for button, it would be there for button only. And this uses JavaScript to describe styles in a declarative and maintainable way. Now a lot of this might not be making a lot of sense to you right now, but what I'm trying to say is this would make sense very soon. Using JavaScript to describe styles in a declarative and maintainable way. There are two terms here you have to pay attention. One is declarative and another is maintainable. A lot of people who advocate, see, I don't know a lot of CSS, so I'm not a thought leader on this, but I follow a lot of people who talk about this day in, day night, and Twitter keeps fighting about it. And I don't have any side. I don't know enough to choose a side. But what I'm trying to say here is, when you say maintainable way, people say that in big teams, in huge teams where there are too many people, CSS-in-JS makes more sense. And why it makes more sense? Because there are no name collisions. What do you mean by name collisions? If you know what CSS is, I hope anybody who is attending this live knows what CSS is. If they don't know, maybe go to the initial CSS part. So your CSS, basically what happens with your CSS is you write something like a class, say .name, and then you somewhere in other CSS file, if you write again .name, this .name will override the style of this .name. That's how CSS works, right? But in bigger teams, it's very hard to have elevate this name collisions. That's where this component level CSS helps. So that's the maintainable part. You can read more about it. The declarative part is, you know how React is declarative, right? It helps you declare view as a function of state. That's how React works, right? Let me have say a code sandbox maybe, and I can explain this to you better. Create sandbox. Create static sandbox, create sandbox. Let me have a React sandbox. Okay. So if I can add like a file here, readme.md. So this is how it works, right? In React, how React works. In React, basically your f of state is your UI, right? So you don't define how things are happening. What you say is, you say something like this, wherein you say button and something like primary, and it renders a button which is having a primary color, right? So this is how you do React. Is the chat not refreshing or nobody saying anything? I'm so nice that people are listening to you. Okay. I'm new to React, don't know anything. We are supposed to code along today. Not much. I can give you some exercises at the end. When to use class-based programming, when to use functional-based. Amar, this is not the right stream to ask this. How about using file.module.css to avoid name collision? Still, like, you will load all the file, right? So if you namespace it correctly, then there are chances that it won't happen. But CSS inherently is not built for scoped. level things, right? So so basically the problem is you have to know a lot of CSS to do CSS right. Front-end developers, not everyone wants to do that, so that's why they came up with this tooling. There's a lot of debate actually around it. Don't want to get into the both sides, but we are learning this because, let's say, because everyone is using it right now, and I feel if you are using React style components or CSS in JS, feels much home than using direct CSS. That's what I would say. So this is what declarative is, right? So basically you pass something as a prop, and then it creates a button which is a primary button. So in CSS in JS also, we'll see in code today that when we'll pass something as a prop, it will Naman says low sound. Is that a problem? I don't see anybody else complaining about it. Naman, maybe increase your volume. I'm not going to shout today. Or let me see. No, the volume is full. I can't increase the volume anymore. So what was I saying? Yeah. So this is a declarative thing, right? So now you understand what the declarative part is. Like how your UI is a function of state and props. Similar way, your CSS will also become a function of state and props. So your complete UI will be declarative. So this you have to understand here. If I save this, let me rename it styled components live 1. Okay, and I can share this with you guys if you want to do this. Let me get some water. I'm speaking so fastly. So we understand now what CSS and JS is. We don't understand, we'll code and we'll understand it more. So there have been many libraries around this. Emotion is a very famous library. Emotion CSS. Come on. So it's library for CSS styles with JavaScript. It's actually quite famous, and it's a little bit old now, but at some point of time this was being used a lot. So, and then recently when I was looking into CSS, what to use, there are different frameworks which have come up. One of that is Chakra UI, which is again very famous. You can see 7,000 stars are there, but this is a framework, right? This is not library per se. This is like you get everything built in. You have avatar components, you have breadcrumb, more like Bootstrap. And then there is another thing called what is it called? Yeah, Tailwind. So Tailwind has a different property. So why am I saying this to you? Because suppose you go for an interview, you can say, hey, I know styled components, but people will ask, hey, have you tried Tailwind or have you tried something else? You can say, no, I don't, but I know about it. So knowing what is there in ecosystem is also an important part of being a developer. Like what everybody is offering, if you know those things, it will help you more. That's why I'm explaining all of this to you. So Tailwind again this is called something like this, the name here should be like atomic CSS, wherein you create small, like if you see this, right, if you have small CSS items, like this is 16 height, 16 width. On a medium sized device, the height will be 24. On a medium sized width will be 24. Then it's rounded full. Then it's max, auto, mx auto, all of this. So you have very small CSS classes, atomic classes here, and with those classes you make a component. You see this is happening here. This again is pretty famous today. I don't know what see 23,000 stars. So one of the most used. People swear by it every day, like, oh my god, where was Tailwind before? Where was Tailwind? Like, it also has components, very few components if you see, and these are only examples. Like, how can you create an alert using Tailwind? Like, there's no, like, if you see Chakra UI, and if you go to say an alert, you see there's a alert component here, right? But if you go to Tailwind, there's no alert component. It's created using these atomic classes here, right? So there's a difference. These are more like examples, and those are more like actual built components. Aniruddha says no sound problem. What does it mean? Like, do you have no sound or you have no problem with the sound? Please be clear in the chat. You give me like mini heart attacks in between in between the stream. So like take some time to which one you would prefer. I would prefer styled components. That's why I'm teaching styled components right now. Why I would prefer styled components for teaching, first of all, is because it's very CSS worthy, very CSS. Uh, so we had a live AMA session yesterday, right? For those of you who missed out, there is a channel. There is a channel where we are doing lives. That's called Tane Unpolished, because those are like some unpolished thoughts we share, we talk about things. So there was a live yesterday, this live happened, right? So if you see here somewhere, there was a question around CSS, thought on CSS frameworks. Yeah. So this started, this thought process actually triggered today's class. I wanted to share how I'm thinking about CSS and what you should learn about CSS, all of these things. Okay. So I hope I'm making myself clear, Sushil. Yeah. Is Tailwind similar to Bootstrap? No. More like Chakra is similar to Bootstrap. Tailwind is like a new concept wherein you build your UI with smaller things. Now, if you go to this questions after this, I talk about why when you are learning new, like you are right now, you should learn CSS more and frameworks less. But while using, maybe use Chakra or Tailwind or whatever you want to use. I don't care about it, or whatever your team is using, use that. But when you are learning, learn basic CSS. And that's where I went to check into these things, which one should I teach. And I found that this styled components is more CSS than anything else. You don't there is a very good saying which says, learn let the quote worthy moment. So the quote says that learn, what is this, learn CSS, not classes. So with Tailwind, what you are doing is you are learning the class names, right? BG red 100, border red 400, all of these things. But with this UI, with the styled components, you are learning more of CSS. And that's why I prefer, when you are starting, you learn CSS, and then once we are good with CSS, we can move to things like Tailwind or Chakra or Bootstrap or anything. But learning part, if you're learning how to style React, you're making small apps, I would say Tailwind is a better choice. That answers your question. Sushil had question, everybody had question. Okay, so where are we on the lesson plan? Okay, let's go back. This is why I made the plan, because you ask questions and I forget about what I was going to teach. So talk about different libraries, talk about CSS frameworks, why styled components. Okay, so we talked about CSS. We also talked about why styled components, because I think it's more near to CSS, but also it does few things which is really good. What it does is it automatic critical CSS, which means if you are not using a piece of CSS in the current page, that CSS won't be sent to the user. It's hard to understand that, but if you understand it, what it means is every page you will not have unused CSS, which actually creates more payload. Your browser has to do more work to parse it. Same way, easier deletion of CSS. It can be hard to know whether a class name is used. This is a bigger problem, right? If you have like a huge CSS file, or if you have like 10 huge CSS files, you are afraid of deleting something because you don't know what will break where. In this case, what happens with styled component is you get the CSS with the component itself. So when you delete the component, you delete the CSS. So it says, right, styled components makes it obvious, as every bit of CSS is tied to the specific component. So if you know that nobody is using that component, you can delete that part of CSS. Automatic vendor prefixing. This actually everybody does. This is not a big deal. But what happens is you write your CSS to current standard, and it does MS, Mozilla, all of these prefixings which you need to do. So So that's there. So let's get started. I think this is something which you need to understand the motivation of it. No class name bugs, because every CSS style component generate unique class names for your style, so there will be no duplication, overlap, misspellings, no collision. All of these things won't happen, which we talked about already. uh, exactly, painless maintenance. You never have to hunt across different files to find the styling affecting your component. Like if you do normal CSS, you say a class name somewhere, all it is defined. Like suppose you have 20 CSS files, it's a big problem after that. So these are some of the issues which actually all CSS in JS solves, but with style components is more near to the component itself. So that's it. I think, where is that? Oh, so we came here. So why style components? Now let's get started. We have already spent like 20 minutes understanding this, but this understanding is required. You need to understand different frameworks, libraries, uh, atomic CSS, CSS in JS. People talk about it all the time. You might get few questions around it in interviews. So read about it. At least keep yourself updated around these things. Okay. Can we do keyframe animations in CSS? Yeah, that's a good question. I think it will come in part 3 or part 2 of this, but yes, we can do it. And we'll do it. We'll do some of it also. Give me like a second. So we can do animations and all that. That's not a problem with style components actually. So, so where were we? So let's get started a little bit with this with basic examples. If you go to stylecomponents.com, you get this example, and this is pretty simple example actually. We want to get started, so let's do your first styled component, and this will be a button. If you render our lovely component just like any other button component, this is what you get. I am a button, but where is I am a button coming here? I don't know. Like, where is the text for this? So let's try this. So if you want to do it on Code Sandbox, you need to install, and if you want to do it on your Create React app, again you need to install style components. So you need to say, hey, styled components, and you need to install this. So it will install it. It also says you can install the Babel plugin for it in the documentation. So let's install that as well, and let's save this file for now. Let's go to app.js. We'll try the example there. What it says is import style from style components and const button equals style button. Now I am copying it right now, but I would ask you not to copy this. Type this so that you make a habit of typing things. Chakra UI alerts will close. We'll close this. I just have this habit of clearing my browser. I don't want to keep many browsers open. So that's there. Let's see this. So what you need to do is, so you now have a button here. If you import style from style components, this should work. And then if you want to render this button, you can render hello team Tane. This should render. This is not giving any error. The only error is that button is not being used. So how do I use the button? That's just great. I don't know. Does it render a button? Yes, there's a button. There's a button, but how do you render this button? I think what you need to do is, oh my god, all of these examples have only the style part and not the rendering part. You see this? So you say button. Yes, so correct. I was right. Just wanted to check. Click to do something, and then you do a button close, and this says click to do something. So this is a button which has no style. If you see, now this is something which I want to explain to you. When I first saw this weird thing, this template literal the thing, I didn't know even what the name of this thing is, to search and understand what it is. So then, are there any chat questions? Oh my god. Oh no, no new questions. Okay, so then I didn't even know what it is called. I think it was 2 or 3 years back sometime. Uh, since then I know what it is called, and I want to tell you what it is called. This is called a tagged template. Okay, in the documentation you can read about it in the advanced in tagged template literals. It will tell you what it is. It's something which came in ES6 in the latest JavaScript, and what it does is basically it calls a function like this. You see, these are equivalent. The fn sum string here and fn, that function with this array, both are same. So maybe read about it, understand this, but now that someone is going to ask you somewhere how to implement dark mode when using styled components. Good question, Guru. This comes into theming, and we will be exploring theming tomorrow. I'm just trying to get the basics today done. Already 30 minutes. I want to do a 40-minute quick chat, and then we'll do theming tomorrow, and we'll cover that. But if you are very curious, if you want to go alone, please go here. So this will do your theming part, and we can do dark mode tomorrow around this. We'll talk about it. I'll explain how this works. But to get started, this is your button. Now suppose I want to do some change in button, right? I want to do background color, say black. Does this change anything? Did I do it wrong? What happened? No. So font size, where am I? To answer questions, basics, documentation, style, component, viewer here. Background, sorry, not color. Background is transparent. क्या करते हो भाई तने प्रताप? So does this change? No. Or hey, 1 second. Let me open the chat. Yeah. So let's do transparent once and check that. My god, I'm so nervous I forgot the spelling of transparent. Okay, this is what I am. See, this is a classic mistake, right? When you write style in here, you make it an object, and then if you want to type background, you would say black like this, and it becomes black, or say green. Now this is how you do style. Option C. This is how you do style inside a component. But when you are doing CSS in JS with this, what you don't need is this string. So good learning for me. So now you have a transparent background. Is it? No, still not transparent. How would you know until you have a border? So you have something like this, background transparent, and then if you put say color white and then border 2 pixel, you get something like nice. Maybe I should just copy. And is it going to come? No, not going to come. Oh, because color is white, right? So that's the problem with this thing. If I need something like this, then I need the entire thing. Display inline block, border radius, and then you will get like a nice button. So maybe this would help. No, why is it not taking from here? Or should I refresh? Sometimes Code Sandbox behaves weird. No. Let me just try this. It's coming back, but it's not. Let's say font size 32 pixel. Will that work? Yes, it works. There's something wrong with this. It says background transparent, color white. Color white is not working because I don't have a proper background here. I think that's why. So if I do background color black, click to do something is here now. 16 pixel. Anyway, so that's not the point. The point is now this is nice. Why is the border not coming? Because the entire body is white. So if you want to see the border, you want to put black here. Yeah. So this looks like a nice button. I like this button. Anyway, questions? Oh my God. Save, change the BG. Thank you. so thank you for helping me out with this. So you see, the thing which I liked about styled component, though I have not been, to be honest, I have not been using it in Microsoft, and in my current project we are using SAS because the project is little old, and in the previous project we were using something called Fella. So this is different. The thing I like about it is you write CSS. So your CSS skills are still there, which is very useful in interviews, and generally also, like, I don't want people to forget writing CSS. That would be a bad thing. See how much struggle I had to do to get this right. So this is one part which is done. So basic is done. This is how you style a component. Also, let me explain the props thing, and then before we go. So remember I told you about the declarative part, wherein I said it will reflect how your current UI will be a function of your props. Same thing we can do now with CSS also. So we can say something like that: if this is a primary button, then the color of the text should be, say, red. But if it's not a primary button, this is a fine color. It's a primary button targeted specifically. You can do something like this. This is basically what is this? This is basically in a template string. You can write JavaScript, right? In React also we do this when we are mapping something like that. So if we do something like this, say props, and if this primary, then the CSS, now it says CSS is not undefined. So we have to import CSS for this first thing. So if it's primary, then the background should be white. I'll explain the code to you in like a second, but let me show this to you first. So suppose now I have a primary button. Wait. So you see there are two buttons now. This is the color of this is changed. It's pale violet red. And this is a non-primary button. Now how is this working? So this primary is basically a prop. Now when you don't give, you can also give it like this: primary equals true, and this will also work. Primary equals false, it goes away. Primary equals true, it works again. So what I'm trying to do is, this is a prop, right? So for binary props, you don't need to pass the argument. Just if the prop is just CSS. Suppose you were writing CSS like this. For a second, think that you are writing CSS something like this. If you're writing a CSS for a button class, and you had background as blue, and then you had bunch of other CSS, say bunch of other CSS rules here, and then at the bottom you had something called background red. Okay, now sorry, so this is breaking. So now you have some bunch of CSS here, and then you have background red. Now just by the rule of specificity and cascade, because both have the same specificity, the cascade will win, right? So this background will automatically override this background, right? This is how CSS works. So what this is doing is no magic. What it's doing is, if you take this entire thing and pass props as true, this is like a function, right? If you pass props as true, if this becomes true, then this will be the final string. So the final string for this will be, let me just show it to you so that you understand this better. There's no magic here. So the final string for this would be this. Oh, this CSS, shift tab. And because this is the final string, your background white and your color wins over this background white and this color. So if you are not doing this, and if I'm not wrong, see, I'm not used style components a lot, but when I see code, I can understand what's happening. So let me try this. If we are not doing this, and we take this and put on top, put it here, I think this would break. Yeah, see, this broke. Now I click to do something is again black, even though we are doing this. So this is, and I like this. Now you learn that this is again just a CSS rule, nothing else. So you, if you know basic CSS, understand this, you can do whatever you can do with CSS, and that would work. Questions? Save. What is he doing? Can we use button style in other JS file component? Can we reuse this in React Native? Mahesh, yes. Sudarshan, yes. Can we use it by exporting it to export const button? Yes, you can export it, right? Explain from line 16 to 22. I have been explaining things. How is this different from modular CSS? Both are basically same. The difference is that now you have a component button. So if you want it in a different file, you can just export it, export const button, and that's it. What's wrong? Button has already been declared. Export button, sorry. Now what is it saying? Export button, support for experimental isn't enabled. This is a different kind of problem, but so if you do this, you can go in a different file and use this button again and again. So what you can do is you can actually have your own design system kind of thing, or component library, let's say own component library, which you have made for your project, your team, or something like that, and you can use these buttons anywhere. Anytime you pass a prop, you can create button primary. So here's now the task for you is go to Bootstrap, find the design, and create different kinds of button primary, button danger, button progress, whatever buttons are. Do that, and that brings us to 45 minutes of our session. This is what I wanted. Abhishek A says 25 to 31, please explain. 25 to 31, what is 25 to 31? Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So okay, I'll explain it again. Maybe I explained it too fast and you couldn't get it. This is a primary prop. Okay, so this basically, when you get that button component, it will get a prop which is primary. Okay, so this button is a component, right? This is a component, so it will get primary as a prop. Now what we are doing here is we are checking if props has props.primary, then do this, then the background should be white and color should be pale violet red, and that overrides the background transparent and the color black. Because this overrides this part overrides this part, you see this as color black. Both are transparent, both are white, so it's very hard to understand. So if I change it to say gray, now you can see the difference. So it's overriding the background and the color part from here based on a prop, which we are passing the prop here. So that's it. I think that's what that is. Good that we do it live so that I can explain it again and again if you have not getting it. So that's it. Thank you for joining today's live session. Tomorrow we'll have another live session wherein we'll create some more components. We'll look into some more things. I want to look tomorrow is in theming and some more things here, like how to style any component, extending styles. We did till here adapting based on props. Now we'll go a little bit more and we'll create like a component library. So I'm going to do it like daily, 1 hour to 45 minutes to 1 hour session, and we'll see how much we can cover every day. But this is what I wanted to cover today, and good that we covered it today. Try this. Your homework is, if you want to be good at it, your homework is create your own buttons, create your own buttons at least. Just try it like for 10-15 minutes, create your CSS, so 5-10 buttons. And this I have already shared with you, so you can use this code sandbox 4 kit and then use it from there. Thank you for this, for the live. I think, can you someday explain reduce? I can do that. We can do that. We can schedule that session also about reduce. Reduce is quite basic actually. I'll explain sometime. Maybe when I'm doing a functional programming session, I'll explain all of it, map, filter, reduce, how it works. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining the session. Bye bye.